This is the Do London Differently podcast for London National Park cities.
And we're here today at the Fat Fox Mushrooms headquarters in Tottenham. And we're going to be talking about a project that Poppy and I will be doing in October.
I'm Poppy Flint, and I'm a sort of artist, educator, creative workshop facilitator, any of things within that mix. And I've worked on quite a few collaborations with Fat Fox. And yeah, fantastically, we've managed to get funding from the British Mycological Society for an exhibition, installation, which is taking place the first week of October with support from London National Park cities, because they'll be hosting the exhibition in their visitor centre just off Regent Street. And the installation is based on research by a researcher called Dr. Laura Suz, who's researching the effect of air pollution on fungal diversity and the knock-on effects that has on forests. And it ties in sort of thematically with what Fat Fox are really interested in, with native species and biodiversity. Do you want to summarize that?
Sure. So my name is Lex. I'm a co-founder of Fat Fox Mushrooms, and we do mushroom growing kits, along with a lot of other things. We're really interested in education about fungi, but we've become quite interested in cultivating UK native fungi to sort of support the fungal diversity of the UK and make sure that we are not doing any damage to the ecosystem by potentially bringing in invasive fungi.
London has been given the first ever national park city status.
London, the world's first national park city.
Come and enjoy, because life's too short, really and truly.
And London, wow, what an amazing city.
So, greener,
Healthier.
And wilder.
So the idea for the exhibition came around, I went to a talk by a mycologist who's a researcher at Kew Gardens, and her work is focused on, or some of her research, I should say, is focused on the biodiversity of fungal communities in forests, and specifically she'd been gathering data from forests across Europe and looking at how the nitrogen pollution, or sort of nitrogen pollution in the air, was settling in the soil and having an impact on the sort of fungi that was growing. And through the research, they're trying to look at how the change of fungal communities is having an impact on forests, and whether there's a tipping point at which forests' health is impacted because there's less diversity of fungi. And for me, it was, well, that's telling an interesting story where we know air pollution is bad, and we know biodiversity loss is bad, but this was actually something that was kind of joining those dots, creating the link, the story between them. And this researcher also produces really beautiful photographs of mycorrhizal fungi and their hyphae, with the sort of the data and the sort of information about what species it is and where it's found. So I wanted to use those photographs as an installation to capture people's imaginations and tell that story of how these sort of different environmental issues are connected.
At Fat Fox, we have always been really interested in collaborating with artists on making the world of fungi a little bit more accessible to sort of your average person, because it seems quite mysterious. And I think working with artists is a really wonderful way to share some of the magic of the fungi kingdom. So we've actually been working with Poppy on a variety of projects for quite a while. So the first time we collaborated, was it making the agar mycelium gels?
Yes, I've been doing a project where we've been using light filters essentially as part of creating a kind of mycelium effect with LEDs. And I wanted to see if, instead of using a sort of off-the-shelf light filter, whether I could actually use agar with mycelium grown into it.
Yeah, so we brought Poppy in and we ran her through some of the lab processes of creating agar and growing different mycelium on that agar, and we were kind of successful. It was it was an interesting project. And then from there, we also collaborated on the Fungi Room, which is a project that we did. It's sort of a interactive, immersive mushroom grow space that also has sort of, maybe you can explain your bit of it.
Yeah, so like these sort of lighting, mycelium effect lighting panels that I mentioned, we've got those installed in the ceiling. They were actually originally made for the rave tree in the Greenpeace field at Glastonbury Festival, where they've got this massive tree with bracket fungi coming out of it, and in the base of it we had these light panels. Sadly, not with the agar mycelium light shelters.
Haven't been able to upscale them.
Yeah, the upscaling was a problem, and probably making them weatherproof would also be quite a challenge. But it's still something we could experiment with in the future. Yeah, so these light panels are installed within the roof of the fungi room, kind of giving a bit of movement and flow to the space, and the sort of the light moves along as people walk through.
Yeah. So what did get you into fungi?
Oh, that's a really good question. It just seems to have been something that's popped up in my life for quite a long time, even ever since university, knowing people that really loved foraging and trying to sort of ID and grow mushrooms. And obviously, I have sort of background in environmental education and love enthusing people about the outdoors and the wonders of nature. And I guess because fungi, as you said, it's a bit more mysterious or sort of unknown, and it's actually unknown. Well, it's not unknown, but it's often forgotten that it's an entire kingdom, in the same way that plants and animals are a kingdom, and there is so much still to learn about fungi and understand about it. But I was actually doing projects. It was more about the roots of trees and the underground generally, and what the life and sort of the chemistry and physics of soil and how that sustains life above ground. And yeah, fungi is a big part of that. It's sort of part of the systems that allow nutrients and water to flow between everything that's living underground.
Yeah, I mean, this is the thing. If you're interested at all in ecosystems, you will very quickly become interested in fungi because they're just so incredibly vital to all ecosystems. For me, it was really, I'd always been interested in mushrooms, but I never really thought particularly about making them a career. It was a lockdown project. So, it was just a fun lockdown project to try and grow some mushrooms, and we got a small grant to. It was supposed to be to join the community together during COVID in a way that was not physical. So we got a small grant. We did 100 free mushroom kits to the neighborhood, and got everybody. I think it was a Facebook group, sort of sharing their grow. And then from there, we sort of very quickly realized that in order to have people grow mushrooms effectively, there's a lot of work that needs to be done in instructions. And we got really interested in the idea of educating people through growing. So yeah, it sort of snowballed from there.
And I know a lot of your work has also tried to have a community angle through it, like you've done the Fungi Club, where you're inviting people into your sort of community lab, and your work with artists and doing other workshops. So I guess this British Mycological Society fund seemed a good way to continue doing the work that doesn't pay very well.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, we've done a lot of community work and projects, and we've always sort of, the business has funded it, but that only really gets us so far in what we're able to do. So when Poppy came to us with this project as a collaboration, and the idea of doing this application to the British Mycological Society, we thought, great, we can do something really great that doesn't necessarily just drain resources that we don't have. We can do a bigger thing. That would be really fantastic.
So I was aware of British Mycological Society do an annual arts grant called the Massey Arts Grant. And I sort of came to Lex with this suggestion because I knew that Fat Fox wanted to do more work with artists in order to sort of get people thinking about fungi in different ways. And I knew we needed a venue to host it that wasn't just sort of my little studio in the corner of Tottenham. And I'd been in conversation with Lou from London National Park Cities previously, and they'd come along to this sort of installation. We've got a festival before. So I approached them to say, like, if we could get funding for this exhibition, would you be up for hosting it? And it seemed to really fit well because there was already this idea being floated of doing a fungi festival week that tied in with the Shroom Sunday that was already being organised with London Fungus Network. So those sort of pieces came together quite nicely. Of course, then had to write the application and cross our fingers, and we actually got the money, which we were very fortunate to do so, because I know there's a lot of amazing creative fungi projects going on out there. So we're really grateful to have that.
At Fat Fox, we've been really interested in UK native fungi strains. We think it's really important for maintaining some of the biodiversity so for example, they're having a big problem in the States with golden oyster, which are not native, taking over habitats. And so we haven't seen anything like that here yet, but obviously, particularly for outdoor growing, we think it's really essential that we are using strains that have been isolated from mushrooms found in the UK, and it's something we've been working on. This is a great example. This one's dried, so they can get quite a lot bigger than this. But this is a dryad saddle, also sometimes known as a pheasant back. And it's a really delicious, choice, edible UK native mushroom that has been isolated from a mushroom found in the UK.
Do you do that isolating the spores here?
No, so we do sometimes go out and find our own mushrooms. We also work with foragers and say, can you find us this specific strain or species? And then we will clone it ourselves in the lab to get a culture from it. So there's all sorts of ways. We also have, we know people that do that themselves and make the cultures themselves, and we can either buy or trade the cultures from them. So there's myriad different ways that we can get them.
What are some of the other ones you're growing?
So we have our reishi now is a native reishi that was actually from London, which is quite cool. We also have a phoenix oyster, which is a really lovely kind of white frilly oyster mushroom. Really fast growing, which is nice. A tarragon oyster, that's a really unusual oyster. It has this incredible smell. It's quite floral, and it only grows in the British Isles. So that's quite a rare one. Wow. We've also got a velvet shank. We've got a whole big list of UK native species that we are really excited to share. And so we do grow kits that you can just grow at home like this that go quite quickly. And we also have dowels. So if you want sort of a longer term, it will take longer. If you inoculate a log, you sort of drill holes in a fresh log and tap these little dowels in. And that will take a lot longer to have your first fruit, but they will also fruit over and over again over a number of years. So yeah, particularly for the outdoor growing, all of our outdoor range now is UK native species, just so that we're making sure that we are not adding non-native species to the environment, just to avoid the possibility of sort of messing with that ecological diversity and balance.
That's funny. Even in all our chats, I didn't realise quite the range of different native oyster mushrooms.
Yeah.
So like the fact that Fat Fox are already doing this work on native strains and with consideration of biodiversity, I guess that was one of your motivations as well, for sort of seeing the synergy with the work of the research by Laura says that I wanted to use within the installation. I mean, it's looking at a different scale and sort of a different issue within biodiversity, but I think there's that kind of nice connection. And again, it's just adding more pictures to this sort of puzzle and communicating to people actually kind of the fragility of biodiversity and balance within woodlands. I'd managed to chat to Laura after a talk I went to by her because I was just like really wanted to know more, and I was sort of excited by it and got her email address. And then as the sort of ideas started to come together of how I could use the images she'd taken within an installation, I sort of emailed to get permission from her and get the okay. And she sort of checked that I was talking about her research in an accurate way within the sort of the funding proposals. Because I do really want to make sure that whilst what we're showing is sort of abstracted, I guess, from the research, that we are still communicating about it correctly. But in essence, the installation is going to consist of a number of light boxes. So they're sort of backlit, almost like you might see through a microscope, but at a much blown up scale. So these large light boxes that people are able to move and turn to look at the different images. And the audio and the sort of the other surround lighting will respond to whether there's a sort of scene of variety and different species being lit up, or whether people have moved the light boxes to all of one species, which would, within this context of the research, will be what is described as the nitrophilic fungi, so the fungi that love being a very anthropomorphizing way of talking about it. The fungi that grow well where there's lots of nitrogen in the soil, because it won't be that the fungi dies off completely, but there'll be species of fungi that thrive where there's lots of nitrogen pollution. So what we'll be showing is which of the sort of species that do really well where there's nitrogen pollution, and when there's that scene of less diversity, the audio and the surround light will kind of respond to that. So in essence, it's a very simple game, but I've learned through doing lots of installations, actually, when you're creating something interactive, that you're not giving people kind of instructions to a game, but you do still have a kind of win and lose state. You do sort of have to simplify things quite a lot. But yeah, so in essence, we're trying to encourage people to create this kind of picture of diversity with audio cues for them to know that they've got it into the right place. But within that, there'll also be the names of the species and interpretation that's actually explaining where these images are coming from, and yeah, why what we're doing is as it is.
And I will say, if you've ever been to one of Poppy's installations, they're just incredibly immersive. And I mean, in some ways, it'd be good to have Benji here to talk about that portion of it. But yeah, so Benji Bales is sort of the guru of the lighting and the sort of technical interactivity, which makes it really special. But yeah, basically in these installations are like quite immersive, and you really move into this space where there's sounds and light, and they're really quite magical experiences.
Thank you. And also, yeah, thanks for bringing Benji into it and Benji's company, Bales and Light, because, yeah, I don't do the tech stuff. I come up with the ideas and then let other people scratch their heads about how to actually make the stuff work. And often I think it's going to be really simple. And then they start talking to me about how many sensors there needs to be when you've got X amount of things spinning and X amount of different audio tracks. And I realised actually it's not simple at all. But they have the people I work with have fun putting it together. So that's a good thing. As well as the tech side of things of hopefully blend into the background and no one notices. The audio is also being created by somebody else, a sound designer called Lex Kasanki. And again, back with Fat Fox quite a while ago, Fat Fox were playing around with biosonification.
Yeah. I can talk a little bit about biosonification. So basically the principle behind biosonification is that everything that's alive gives off electrical impulses. And so you can, put those little the sort of things that you get in like a heart monitor, the little sticky pads, but you can put those on a plant or a mushroom, anything that is alive, and read those electronic impulses, and you can translate that into music, for example. So that's been, we did that project probably about 5 or 6 years ago now. And so Lex was the one who sort of came up with the musical idea that sort of the mushrooms would play their music through Lex's musical framework, which was quite cool.
Yeah, so he's taking the sort of, it's almost like the mushrooms are creating the rhythm, and then Lex is deciding how to sort of play with that and actually what it would sound like, whether it's going to sound like a sort of a harpsichord or a drone, and those sounds were first used in our installation called Underfoot quite a few years ago. That's what they're created for, but we've been using them in other ways since. And yeah, there's a bit of tweaking going on for this particular installation to make them suitable for this idea of different states of diversity or lack of diversity, which will be sort of reflected in hopefully and this is where it sort of is interesting with sort of science communication, because we're trying to be true to the science, but we also know we have to sort of craft a story around it to make it engaging. So the audio is very important because it's an important part of creating an emotion and a feel. Whereas Lex said, what's the vibe of a biodiverse forest? And making that sort of, it's sort of like adding the layers to it. I sort of call it it's the creative license within science communication. I'm actually working on another project with Lex where instead of the biosonification, we're partnering with a company that are innovating in bioacoustic, research into soil health by using very high spec microphones that actually get placed in the soil. And they're training these microphones, so it's sort of machine learning to then be able to look at the data to see what volume of different species there are living in the soil. So they've kind of managed to get samples of knowing within a control environment how X number of nematodes are within this volume of soil. So they can have the raw sample for that, and then they'll be placing the microphone in real fields and comparing that data. So I've given Lex the job of listening through loads of that data and trying to interpret it into something audible and kind of intelligible and palatable even to an audience, because I think the actual raw data is quite chaotic to listen to.
So how can people visit this exhibition and when is it happening?
Well, we've got a private view on the evening of Friday, the 3rd of October, and then it's open for a week, running from Saturday through to the following Sunday, with various opening times during that week. So it's best to check the website. And then as things tend to spiral, it's gone beyond just doing the exhibition, but into doing lots of events as part of this Fungi Festival week, because Fat Fox already do lots of workshops. I have other things. So we've sort of we've filled a programme quite nicely, as well as other fungi events going on around the city. So as well as the private view, we're going to have a Meet the Researcher type evening on the Thursday, in which Dr. Laura Sers will be coming along to talk about her research, the work that she does with her team at Kew Gardens, and there'll be quite like an informal evening as well, so there'll be hopefully chance to chat to her, visit the exhibition, chat to folks from Fat Fox. And what other events are you doing?
So we're going to be participating in Shroom Sunday, which is quite a big event done by London Fungus Network. That is going to be a full day event on Sunday the 5th, I believe.
Yes.
Yes. Okay, so sorry, yeah. So on Sunday the 5th is Shroom Sunday. It's at the Pimp Hall Nature Reserve up in North London. And we're going to be doing a workshop on growing fungi outdoors, which should be quite fun. We'll also have a stall where we'll be selling various mushroom growing things. And then there are a lot of other events happening. There's going to be walks on that day. And I mean, loads of fun mushroom things. I think there's probably going to be a poetry slam as well. So Shroom Sunday is definitely quite a good one to come along to. We're also going to be doing a mycomaterials workshop the following week. And that is basically building things out of mycelium. So you can make anything from bricks to insulation to candle holders. You can basically build stuff out of mycelium, which is quite fun. And it's kind of a hands-on project that people seem to really enjoy. I've got a little example of something right here. So
And it's just great to see the potential of mycelium. Obviously, this is just a small was it a candle holder?
Well, yeah, it was supposed to be like a soap dish, but it didn't go very well. But you can see, basically this is this is mycelium composite. So the mycelium has grown around this wood substrate and made like quite a hard little thing that you could potentially use. And it's completely biodegradable, made from entirely natural materials. So there's a lot of interesting potential in this, and people always really enjoy coming along to workshops about it.
Yeah, and a lot of new research going on about this material. So in a way, it's great that people can get their hands on something in a really DIY way, which is also being researched at a much more sort of high level kind of materials futures kind of way as well.
Yeah. Do you want to talk a little bit about your walk?
Yeah, so one of the other things I'm doing within the Fungi Festival Week programme is something called Walk Under the Trees, which is a walk, a kind of loosely guided walk, as I describe it, that I've been running for quite a few years. It keeps evolving and changing to exactly what it is. But the idea is that I'm taking people on a walk this time around Springfield Park in sort of Hackney in East London, and trying to send people's imaginations below the ground, beneath our feet, and thinking about what's going on underground as we walk, because so rarely do people send their thoughts in that direction. We tend to look at what's in our eye line and maybe look above, but rarely do we consider what's going on underground. And there's lots of things above ground that can help us kind of consider what might be going on beneath ground. Lots of signs of the underground above, and I use the walk to kind of draw people's attention to those, and again in a slightly gamified way look at what I call the characters of the soil food web and the soil cycles that are constantly in process beneath our feet, sustaining what's above. So that's on the Saturday of that week, a couple of hours walk, which you can book onto. So to wrap up, the exhibition will be taking place from the 3rd to the 12th of October at the London National Park City Visitor Centre. You can find the link to that and all the other events that we've mentioned in the show notes and on their website. Please do come down. I think myself or Lex will be there almost any time it's open, so come down and chat to us.
Come and enjoy, because life's too short, really and truly.
And London, wow, what an amazing city.
So, greener,
healthier,
And wilder.